Before we begin this powerful story, take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because what you're about to hear is not just a story. It's a reality many people live in silence. Tonight, we dive into the haunting journey of a young black woman who found the courage to stand up against the man the world called a hero. But she called father, a story of racism, of abuse, of silence that nearly broke her, and the voice that finally set her free. Stay with me until the end, because this is more than one family's struggle. It's a lesson about how prejudice destroys, how silence protects injustice, and how courage can defeat hate. Let's begin. Her voice was trembling, her hands clutching the edge of the police station desk as if it were the only thing holding her together. "Please, save me from my father." The officers froze. A young black woman, no more than 20, stood before them with wide, terrified eyes. Her words cut through the quiet night like a knife. What kind of father would drive his own daughter to beg strangers for protection? On the surface, he looked respectable. A white man with status, charm, and the kind of reputation that made people trust him instantly. Neighbors called him kind, colleagues called him brilliant. But behind closed doors, he was something else entirely. The daughter had lived her life trapped in the shadows of his rage. Every smile forced, every laugh hollow, every step carefully measured to avoid setting him off. No one ever asked what went on inside that house because to the outside world, nothing seemed wrong. But tonight, something had broken. Something had pushed her to escape in the middle of the night. Her heart pounding, her breath ragged, carrying with her a truth she could no longer hide. And now, standing in front of the officers, she wasn't just asking for help. She was fighting for her life. But here's the chilling part. Would anyone believe her? After all, who would the world listen to? The respected white father with a perfect reputation, or the desperate black daughter who dared to challenge him? Her words echoed again in the silence of the station. "Please save me from my father." A plea. A cry for justice. A secret ripped open. But what happened next? No one in that room could have predicted. Because the moment the truth began to surface, the daughter's life and her father's empire would never be the same. So, what really happened behind those closed doors? And how far would a father go to keep his darkest secret hidden? Keep watching, because this story is about to uncover the terrifying truth she risked everything to reveal. The world never sees the warning signs. To outsiders, Maya's life looked almost perfect. She was young, bright, and beautiful. A black daughter growing up in a quiet suburban neighborhood where everything seemed polished and ordinary. Her street was lined with manicured lawns, white fences, and neighbors who waved politely, but never looked too closely. Her father, Daniel, was a man people admired. A white man with a commanding presence, a confident smile, and a career that earned him both money and respect. In public, he was the image of responsibility. He wore sharp suits, spoke with authority, and made people believe he was everything a father should be. And maybe that's why Maya learned early on to hide her pain. Behind closed doors, their home told a different story. It wasn't always violent, but it was always heavy. Silence that felt like a threat. Words that cut deeper than fists. Rules that were never spoken, but always understood. Don't challenge, don't question, don't make him look bad. Maya carried those rules like chains. Even at school, even with friends, her laugh was quieter, her steps smaller. She excelled in her studies, not because she was free to explore, but because she feared the disappointment that might follow if she didn't. Still, in her heart, she dreamed. She dreamed of being seen for who she was, not what her father demanded her to be. But in a world that often judged her skin before her soul, Maya felt the weight of two battles. One inside her home, one outside. In the town where she grew up, she was often the only black girl in her class. Teachers praised her intelligence, but classmates whispered words they thought she wouldn't hear. Little jokes, comments about her hair, questions that weren't really questions at all. Where are you really from? Or, is that your real dad? Maya learned to smile through it, to keep her anger tucked away. Because whenever she tried to speak up, she was told she was being too sensitive. Her father noticed too. And instead of defending her, he dismissed it. "You're imagining things," he'd say. Or worse, "Stop playing the victim. Don't embarrass me." It was in those moments that Maya realized the truth. The man who should have been her protector was her greatest threat, but no one else knew. To the world, Daniel was respectable, reliable, untouchable. And Maya? She was just his quiet daughter, expected to stay silent in the shadow of his reputation. What no one realized was that silence was breaking her, and soon it would drive her to do the unthinkable, because the day would come when Maya could no longer carry the weight alone, and her desperate cry, "Please save me from my father," would shatter the illusion forever. The first cracks in Maya's world didn't come from the fists. They came from the words. It started at school. She was walking down the hallway, her books pressed tightly against her chest, when two boys whispered just loud enough for her to hear, "Look, there goes Daniel's mistake." The words hit harder than a slap. She froze. The boys snickered and walked away, leaving her standing there, her face burning with shame. Later that day in the cafeteria, a girl leaned across the table and tugged on Maya's curls. "Is this even real?" the girl asked, laughing with her friends. Maya forced a smile. She always forced a smile. Because what else could she do? If she got angry, they'd call her aggressive. If she cried, they'd call her weak. That night, when she told her father what had happened, he didn't comfort her. Instead, Daniel leaned back in his chair, his face twisting into disdain. "Don't bring that nonsense home," he said sharply. "Do you know how embarrassing it would be if people thought you were being bullied because of your skin? You sound pathetic, pathetic." The word echoed in her chest like poison, but it didn't stop there. Weeks later, a teacher accused her of cheating on a math test. "There's no way you solved those equations on your own," the teacher said flatly, staring at her with cold eyes. Maya stammered, trying to explain, but the teacher wouldn't listen. The unspoken accusation hung in the air. A black girl couldn't possibly be this smart. She was given detention, humiliated in front of her peers, her reputation tarnished. Maya went home that day, trembling, her knuckles white from gripping her backpack. Surely her father would defend her, right? Surely this time he would protect her. But Daniel's reaction was worse than silence. "You think you're a victim?" he barked. "The world doesn't owe you anything. You're making excuses for your failures. If you want to survive, toughen up." That night, Maya cried herself to sleep, muffling the sound with her pillow so he wouldn't hear. And still, it escalated. At a neighborhood barbecue, Maya overheard two women gossiping about her. "She doesn't even look like she belongs in that family," one whispered. The other nodded, lowering her voice. "I heard he only kept her because no one else wanted her." Maya's hands trembled so badly she dropped her plate of food. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel on the surface, but it was sharp enough to cut. By now, the walls of her life felt like they were closing in. School was hostile. Home was a prison. The outside world saw her as a curiosity at best, a problem at worst. But the worst humiliation came one winter afternoon. Maya had been invited to a friend's birthday party. She spent hours preparing, fixing her hair, carefully choosing her outfit. For once she felt almost normal, almost like she could belong. But when she arrived at the house, the mother at the door looked her up and down and froze. "I think there's been a mistake," the woman said coldly. "No, I was invited," Maya whispered, her voice shaking. Sarah said. The woman stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "I don't think this is the right place for you." The door slammed shut. Maya stood in the freezing air, holding the wrapped gift in her hands. The world blurred as tears filled her eyes. She wanted to scream. She wanted to vanish. When she got home, Daniel was waiting. He took one look at her face and sneered. "Don't tell me you embarrassed yourself again." "God, you make everything difficult." That was it. Something inside her snapped. For years, Maya had endured silence. She had endured ridicule, dismissal, and the weight of being unwanted in her own home. But that night, she realized something dangerous. If she stayed quiet any longer, she might not survive. She began to plan. Not for revenge. Not for rebellion, but for freedom. Because somewhere deep down, Maya believed There had to be a life beyond this. A life where her skin wasn't a weapon used against her. A life where her voice wasn't drowned out by cruelty and control. But escaping Daniel, a man who cared more about his reputation than his daughter's soul, would not be simple. And as the days passed, the abuse grew sharper. A slammed door here, a cruel insult there, a slap across the face when she dared to answer back. Her bruises were invisible to the world, but inside, she was breaking apart. Until finally. The night came when she couldn't take it anymore. The night she ran through the streets, her breath coming in ragged gasps, until the glowing lights of the police station appeared in the distance. The night her trembling voice shattered the silence. Please, save me from my father. And what happened inside those walls would change everything. But would justice be on her side? Or would the world choose to believe the powerful white father over his desperate black daughter? The answer would leave everyone stunned. The police station smelled faintly of stale coffee and paperwork, the kind of place where routine drowned out humanity. But that night, routine shattered. Maya stood at the front desk, her entire body trembling. Her voice cracked as she clung to the counter like it was the only thing anchoring her to the earth. Please, save me from my father. The officer behind the desk, a middle-aged man with weary eyes, froze. For a moment, the only sound was the scratch of a pen dropping to the floor. What did you just say? He asked slowly, almost as if he hadn't heard her correctly. Maya swallowed hard, forcing the words out. My father, he hurts me. He won't stop. I can't go back there. Her chest rose and fell in jagged breaths. For the first time in years, the truth was no longer locked inside her. It was raw. It was messy. It was out in the open. But the reaction wasn't what she had hoped for. The officer glanced at her skin, then at the name she scribbled shakily on the intake form. Daniel Whitmore. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Daniel Whitmore. The respected man. The donor. The man whose name was etched into plaques and whose handshake carried weight. The officer leaned back, arms folded. Are you sure about this, miss? Your father's a good man in this town. The words cut deeper than any insult. Good man. Maya's knees nearly buckled. How many times had she heard that? At barbecues, at school events, in whispered conversations behind her back. He was always the good man. She was always the problem. No, she said, her voice sharper now, almost desperate. You don't know him. You don't know what he's like when no one's watching. Her plea cracked into a sob. The station felt colder, smaller. She was losing them. And then the door burst open. Maya! Her father stormed inside, his presence filling the room like thunder. His eyes were wild, his jaw clenched tight. He looked every bit the loving father concerned for his daughter, and every bit the predator she knew him to be. There you are, Daniel said, his voice dripping with false relief. Officers, I'm so sorry for the trouble. My daughter's emotional. She gets these ideas. Don't! Maya shouted, her voice ricocheting off the walls. Everyone in the station froze. The timid, quiet girl had vanished. In her place stood someone fierce, someone broken but unafraid to bear the wound. Don't you dare call me emotional. Tell them what you did. Tell them how you hit me. Tell them how you call me a mistake. Tell them how you— Enough! Daniel roared, his mask slipping for the briefest moment, his face twisted into the monster she had known all her life. The room crackled with tension. The officers exchanged glances. For the first time, doubt crept in. They saw it. They saw him. Maya's body shook, but her voice carried. You all think he's a good man, but you don't live in that house. You don't wake up every day wondering if tonight will be the night you don't make it out. I'm not lying. I'm not crazy. I'm his daughter, and I am begging you. Save me. Silence fell. Heavy, suffocating silence. One of the younger officers stepped forward, uncertainty written on his face. Sir, we'll need to ask you some questions. Daniel's eyes burned. His fists clenched at his sides. For a split second, Maya thought he might lunge, right here, in front of everyone. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. This was it. This was the moment. If they let him walk out, she was done. Her truth would die in this room, buried under his reputation. And then, a single tear slid down her cheek, not of weakness but of release. She had spoken. She had fought. She had shattered the silence that chained her. Whether the world believed her or not, she would never be silent again. Daniel's voice sliced through the air, low and venomous. "You'll regret this, Maya." The officers tightened their stance. A hand reached for his arm, and Maya, through trembling lips, whispered the words that carried her into the storm of the unknown. "No, you'll regret underestimating me." The room erupted. The shouting in the police station still echoed in Maya's ears long after the night was over. She remembered the way her father's mask had cracked, the way his voice had roared with fury when the officers no longer bowed to his reputation. For the first time, the monster was visible to everyone else. That night, Daniel Whitmore was escorted into a holding cell, not as the admired man of the community, not as the respected father, but as a suspect. For Maya, the world tilted. She sat on the hard bench in the waiting room, her body trembling, her mind racing. Had she done enough? Would they really believe her? Or would her father's influence erase her truth, as it always had? The hours that followed felt endless. Questions, statements, tears, paperwork. Every word she spoke dragged old wounds into the light. And for once, she didn't hide. She told them everything. The insults, the slaps, the humiliation, the silence. She let the pain spill until her voice was raw. When morning came, she walked out of the station a different person. Still fragile, still scared, but no longer invisible. News spread quickly. By the end of the week, Daniel's name was on every local headline. Community leader accused of abuse. Neighbors who once called him admirable now whispered in disbelief. Some defended him. He would never do that, not Daniel. Others avoided the family altogether. And some, for the first time, admitted they had seen hints, the way Maya never smiled, the way she flinched when her father's name was mentioned. At school, the hallways buzzed. Some classmates looked at her with pity, others with cruel curiosity, but a few, the ones who had whispered before, couldn't meet her eyes anymore. For Maya, it was overwhelming. Every look felt like a weight. But deep down, she knew something had shifted. Her truth was finally out there. She wasn't just the quiet girl living in her father's shadow anymore. She was the girl who had spoken, the girl who had fought. Daniel's downfall wasn't immediate, but it was steady. Investigations revealed patterns of control, testimony from neighbors, even distant relatives who had stayed silent for years. The image of the perfect man crumbled piece by piece, and as it did, Maya discovered something unexpected. She wasn't alone. One afternoon, while sitting in the cafeteria, a younger black student approached her nervously. "I heard what you said," the girl whispered. "About your dad. About how nobody believed you. I know what that feels like." The words hit Maya like sunlight breaking through clouds. For the first time, she realized her fight wasn't just hers. Every ounce of courage she had shown lit a path for someone else. Months later, standing before a judge, Maya faced her father one last time. His suit was wrinkled now. His eyes held no charm, only bitterness. He still tried to twist the narrative, painting her as unstable, dramatic, ungrateful. But Maya didn't flinch. She lifted her chin, her voice steady. "For years you told me I was nothing, that nobody would ever believe me. But I stand here today and I know the truth. You don't get to control me anymore. You don't get to silence me. Not ever again." The courtroom fell silent. And in that silence, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Freedom. The impact rippled outward. Daniel's conviction became a conversation point in the community. Uncomfortable but necessary. Parents began asking harder questions. Teachers reflected on their biases. Neighbors admitted that silence had allowed cruelty to thrive. Maya's story became more than her own. It became a mirror for the racism and prejudice that had poisoned the town for years. And while her scars remained, they no longer defined her. They became reminders of the night she chose to fight back. Final message: racism doesn't just live in loud hatred. Sometimes it hides in silence, in reputations that shield abusers, in communities that choose to look away. But silence destroys families. Prejudice weakens entire communities, and courage, the kind that a broken young woman found when she walked into a police station and said, "Please save me from my father." Courage can defeat hate. Because the truth is this: healing begins the moment someone refuses to be silent. And Maya's story reminds us that one voice, no matter how small, can break chains that have lasted generations.